Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aries for September 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, to see a list of my current offerings and to sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get all the perks that go along with that. So, we've got a wild month of September. We've got a lot going on, but specifically for Aries, we've got a lunar eclipse in your sign. This is carrying over a long process of eclipses in your sign, which we're going to go into much more detail about, but we've got a lot to discuss. So let's take it from the beginning of the month. Venus is going direct on September 6th. Venus is the planet that rules love and relationships and rules money and business, and it rules aesthetics, so design and artistic things in our surroundings, and it also rules beauty and clothing and anything, on the topic of fashion or beauty. So this is a really wide spectrum that is covered by Venus, and most of us have some or all of these things in our day-to-day lives. So when Venus goes retrograde, it brings along with it certain things. The way that I think about astrological transits is that there are certain things that are just going on at that time, and we might want to put a judgment on that. That's a good thing, that's a bad thing. I often have people say, is that good? Is that bad? So the first thing we want to know is just black and white. Is this going to be good or is this going to be bad? But I've found that most things in astrology really fall into this gray area, and a lot of it winds up being, what are you going to do with it? And what are you going to make with the opportunities? And how are you going to frame them? So Venus going retrograde is definitely going to bring up some challenges and problems and things from the past that have to be dealt with. But overall, and in the long run, that's a really positive thing, because even if they weren't actively current, these are things that are going around under the surface that are interfering with the quality of your life. So when you have Venus retrograde come, and this happens once every 18 months, and the transit's about 4 months long, even though it's only retrograde for about 7 or so weeks of that time. You've got about a month of the shadow period beforehand, then 7 weeks, and then a month afterwards. So as of the end of June, we started the shadow period. July 25th, Venus went retrograde. September 6th is when it goes direct, but the entire rest of the month of September is covered in the shadow period until October 9th. I'm going to do a little more talking about Venus retrograde right now, but I highly recommend that you go and listen to the video that I did specifically about Venus retrograde, because there's way more caveats and do's and don'ts, and what do you do if you have to do the thing that you're not supposed to do because it's not as indicated. I wrapped all that up into a very comprehensive video called Venus Retrograde, which you can search for Annie Botticelli YouTube Venus Retrograde, and it goes into a lot more depth than I can give it justice, because we have to deal with the eclipses. Those are really the dominating force this month. So I just want to lightly touch on some of these other factors that are at play here, which is including Venus Retrograde. So there's a theme of September not being a time to launch things. Now that doesn't mean that a lot's not going to be happening in September, or that opportunities won't be coming in, or that you won't be busily working on things. It means that if you can avoid making final life-changing, major life or business-altering decisions, or signing things or making strong commitments during the month of September, you'll wind up being better off, because you're still having information come in well into the end of October. Okay, so Venus retrograde, then we have Mercury retrograde, which officially happens September 17th. The shadow period started August 29th, so all the beginning of September is covered in the shadow period. Then Mercury goes retrograde from September 17th through October 8th, then the shadow period afterwards ends on October 24th. And what a shadow period is and why it's relevant, I cover that in the Venus retrograde video, and I also did a special Mercury retrograde video that I just posted this month that includes a lot of the questions that I've seen over time. People will say, what happens if I have to buy a car or travel or get a phone or computer or do something that is affected by the Mercury retrograde transit? What happens then? What do I need to know? That's what this video is very much about. The do's, the don'ts, the avoids in general, and the what to do if you have to do the things you have to avoid, and what you need to know if you're doing anything involving communication or transportation. So check that video out, because it is also very comprehensive. But again, this is a second layer of the theme of going back over things. It reminds me very much of like a school day, an old school. I don't know what goes on in public school system anymore, but at the time that I was in there, there's a bell that rings and you're in, we'll say, math class, okay? And math is what's going on, and math books are there, and the math teacher's there, and talk about math. That's what's going on right now. Bell rings, now it's history. Talk about all this history. That's what's going on right now. And astrology is very much the same way. So you can put an opinion on whether math is good or not, or whether you enjoy it or not, or whatever it is. But that is just what's going on at that time. And when you have these transits happening, you can get annoyed with certain things, and Aries energy will in general want to move forward. And when this energy is moving backwards, it can be very frustrating for Aries energy that wants to, energy just moves through you in a forward direction. If you know ahead of time that it's not really the best time to be trying to blaze forward, it's a great time to blaze backwards, you know, go back into things, go back to old projects and breathe life into them, go back to old problems or subjects or issues and work on them. It's a fantastic time for counseling with yourself, with an assistant, you know, or a practitioner, or going to couples counseling in the case of Venus retrograde, you know, going back over things that make the weak links stronger. Astrological transits are basically happening, I believe, as a way of showing us our weak links. We're on this evolutionary path, perhaps some people believe that, some people don't, I do, where when the astrological transits come up, they show us the weak links. And when you know what the weak links are, then you have a chance to strengthen those so that when transits come up again, they don't have to show you those weak links because they're not there anymore and you're getting stronger on all levels. So in the areas of relationships and business and other self-esteem related things, Venus retrograde is bringing you back over weak links so that you can strengthen them. And if you don't actively try to strengthen them, you'll have opportunities to strengthen them through the challenges that come up. And the same thing with Mercury retrograde. If you have something with your communication and how you express yourself, with your devices, with your vehicles, if there's weak links there, they're going to show up. And that's part of why you don't want to buy new things, because it's looking very much backwards. It's not pushing forward into new things. It's like the earthworm, solidifying old things, like going back over the same soil over and over again. But when the earthworm does that, it creates the most fertile soil for the most bountiful crops in the future. And that's what the retrogrades offer us, is a chance to go so far over things, even if we're like going over it, that it lays this fertile ground for the future. So that's going on. So definitely watch the Mercury retrograde video. And then we have the eclipses, and this is huge. This is big for everyone, but especially for Aries, because you've had the eclipses in your sign, or your polarity of your sign, Aries and Libra, since 2013. Every 2 to 3 years, we have a change in the polarity that's being focused on with the eclipses. And that has this 2 to 3 year theme that is telling a story and activating those certain sectors of life. Well, if you have planets in those sectors, then you're more likely going to be affected by what's going on. And that's true for all eclipses. If sometimes you're getting yourself geared up for, oh, it's eclipse time, there's going to be so much radical change, and then you wind up holding space for someone who's going through a lot of change perhaps, but maybe you're not experiencing it yourself, that's probably because the eclipses weren't hitting at critical mathematical angles in your chart. That is what it's all about. Astrology is a wonderful art that is this very much in the eye of the artist, of the astrologer, right? That's the art of astrology, is the interpretation, but it's a science at heart. And the science is predictive in nature because of the math that's at the core of the science. And here we're talking about mathematical angles. So when you have an eclipse that happens at a critical angle or juncture in your chart, that is going to activate more radical change for you personally coming through your natal chart. That's something, unfortunately, we can't see in horoscopes. And that's one of the many limitations of general horoscopes, is that we don't see what's going on in your individual chart, which could, totally flavor or shift general astrological wisdom on certain topics. So solar eclipses happen on the new moon, and this new moon is in Virgo on September 13th. So we have new moon, solar eclipse, September 13th, 20 degrees of Virgo. new openings in triplicate. So the same way each month we have this cycle of new opening with the new moon. When there's an eclipse at that new moon, then it's like the new moon times 3. So we have new openings, we have new chapters beginning, we have fresh opportunities, windows, doors flying open in the area of that house and sign of the new moon. And then the lunar eclipse, which is on September 27th, closes doors. It shuts things, it seals things, it ends things. We say goodbyes, there's completion, sometimes there's drama, there's fullness, there's, coming to fruition. And that's like a full moon times 3. So if you ever feel the full moon energy, I know I do. I've followed astrology for a long time. It doesn't stop me from experiencing full moon energy. I'm aware there's this fullness and coming to completion and fruition. And that's what's going on at that time. And it can often be emotional. 2 to 3 days before the full moon, there's some kind of emotional showing in my space, and many people will consciously experience that. Well, eclipses have that, whatever that is, times 3. So it's much more intense generally. And so the lunar eclipse is happening at 4 degrees of Aries. So for Aries people, this full moon eclipse is happening not only in the sign of Aries, but for most of you, it's happening in the house of Aries as well. Well, not most of you, some of you. The rest of you actually are having it happen in your 12th house. But you're still having your first house affected because it's in the sign of Aries, which rules the first house. So we'll talk about what all that means. So when you are having, so back to this cycle that I was talking about. So Aries rules me, myself, my physical body, something about your individual experience. And then Libra, its polarity, the 180-degree opposite, is in we. It's like me versus we. We, cooperation, relationship, everything involving partnering and joining together with others. That's like the other end of the spectrum of Aries. And so the relationship between me versus we has been very strongly being activated, transformed, worked on during this time of the eclipses since 2013. You can also think back to between 2004 and 2006 when we had the Aries Libra eclipses last time. Think about the breakups and the makeups and the partner joint, the relationships that were started and the relationships that were ended and what went on between 2004 and 2006. We're going through this similar cycle. And again, everyone's going through it, but specifically Aries, is you're having these things activated in your chart where your relationship to yourself is radically transforming, and your relationship to other people and how you are in relationship with other people is radically transforming. So we're continuing this theme here, a very strong activation of this polarity of our experience. So the last of these eclipses is going to be in spring of 2016. So we have the second to last here, and it's moving us along the continuum. So in general, what's going away is a way that we looked at things, how we are to ourselves, how we strongly hold to something that is like even being right. This is a huge theme for Aries energy. Aries energy likes to be first and it likes to be right. And there's a lot of ways that that is beneficial to the world because Aries people are the ones that get things going. They inspire, they initiate, they are a spark. And that's a positive expression of Aries. One of the less positive expressions of Aries is when that energy of wanting to move forward is sometimes not appropriate for that circumstance or at that time. And that's part of the aspect of yourself that is getting to, it's like a diamond in the rough, Aries energy is not notably refined and polished unless you have other placements that are more that way, or unless you've been doing self-development and working on that within yourself. It's kind of, it's very natural, it's very flowing, but it's not necessarily thinking first and then doing. It's like doing first and then possibly thinking afterwards based on whatever happens, And that's how energy runs through you. We've got 12 signs, and they're like ingredients in a person pie. And many people think that you only have the energy of your sun sign. It is totally not true. We all have all the signs within us. Every single ingredient of those signs is within each person. It's just in a different ratio. So the degree to which you mesh with the things we say are positive or that can be challenges for Aries energy is going to depend on how much of that you have in your chart. If you have one placement, you're going to resonate with that in some ways, but then you'll have all this other energy and other signs that say, oh yeah, most of the time I'm really not like that. And so it might be tempting to say, well, astrology is not right because I don't resonate with that particular aspect. But that's just a tiny, your sun sign is just a tiny, tiny, tiny component of all of the placements and all of the energy in your chart that makes you uniquely you and is how energy moves through you, which is your unique expression. But if you have a lot of placements in Aries, then you'll more regularly have the challenges and opportunities that Aries energy has, which is to inspire, to lead, to forge, to, you know, to bring things into a forward movement, to explore, to pioneer, to trailblaze. You'll have that as more of a constant in your life. So at this time where the eclipses are in your sign, you're having this opportunity to really polish up your being, you know, and just really see what of these aspects is working for me and how am I using these things to benefit me and what my mission is and what I'm trying to do and how are these things holding me back. And always we wind up coming to one key point, which is often Aries energy has more of a focus on the doing and less of a focus about the feeling. But other people that you attract in your life have more of that feeling component. It's just this way that we do things. If we are more extreme with certain things, we usually pull, like I see Aries energy will often pull a lot of water energy to them. Very emotional people, very sensitive people, you know, very caring and nurturing people. Not that Aries people also can't be that, but it's like this energy that kind of softens it. So if you are hurting the feelings of people around you and creating a dynamic of antagonism that's not benefiting anybody, and through this eclipse process, you can be more sensitive to other people's feelings and other people's side of things and the feeling aspect of life rather than just the doing aspect of life. And at eclipse time, it's really awesome to do that. And this is why it's such a great opportunity, because you're not supposed to be doing that much as far as forcing things forward in September. This is a month to respond to the things that happen and to just kind of sit back and watch as things happen and go back over things and review things. So energy is closing either in a physical habit, a way that something with your self-esteem, a belief system, and then it's opening up in the house and the sign of Virgo. Virgo has everything to do with your health. Now there are two places that I really look at in a chart. There's other layers that we can look at for health, but the houses and the signs are Aries and Virgo, the two that are at play here and the two that are extra emphasized for Aries themselves, because the energy of the physical body is in Aries in the first house, and the energy of health is in Virgo in the sixth house. So some aspect of how you are with your health or how you are with your body or how you're seeing yourself or your self-esteem or your perception of yourself is going to be eclipsed out in favor of a new health routine, a new way of seeing things, a new way of eating, a lifestyle change, quitting a bad habit. That's a strong theme that's been going on and is very much supported at this time. Also, looking at how your day-to-day activities can be much improved. The sixth house is called the mundane reality. It's like what you do every day. If you go to work, it's like your work environment, you know, your coworkers, your boss, your job, your desk, whatever, your day-to-day. If you're at home most of the time, that is mostly your sixth house. You know, whatever it is that you do every day. If you go to school every day, then that's going to be where sixth house shows up. So new opportunities in your sixth house, so possibly a new job position, a new boss, a new coworker, a new system at work, you know, a new class schedule, something new in your home, a new schedule at your home. But it looks to be that it would be beneficial, it would be positive that you get like on a healthcare regimen or a positive, some improvement in your day-to-day life is basically what is indicated with these transits, and many, many, many Aries are going to experience that. Sometimes we have to have this conscious letting go of the lunar placement, the Aries, so something that you're sticking to being right or sticking to being individualistic. Sometimes you have to shift that before your day-to-day can look better and you can experience it better. So look to see which places maybe you're holding to being right about something or holding to being individualistic about something that's interfering with happiness in your day-to-day and harmony in your day-to-day experience. And you can radically improve what goes on in your life every day, which is really exciting. So that's the scoop with the eclipses. Also the Virgo eclipses. Virgo is also about animals and pets. So something new involving an animal situation or a pet. If you are getting something new or doing something new or launching something new and you have say in it, then try to wait till the end of October when the energy is more clear, because more and more information is going to be coming in until then. If you're responding to something, or like a dog shows up at your house and it's in the eclipse time and you can't say, hey, you come back here in October, okay? Because I can't make a decision about this now. There's like certain things that are going to come into your life in the way of this new Virgo energy that you can't put off, and you have to respond right away. Just try to set up as much flexibility and openness in the situation so you can watch to see how things are shaking down and what tweaks you might have to make to whatever this new thing is that you're either saying yes to voluntarily or that you kind of had to say yes to. Often eclipse news, we call it non-negotiable. Like something comes in and it's like, this is what's happening right now. What are you going to do with it? And all you can really control is what you do with it and how you see things, which reminds me of one last thing I'd like to mention, which is a movie called The Happy Movie. I'm really excited about this movie right now. First of all, I like anything about happy stuff, but specifically for certain aspects of which I'll tell you about right now. So you can look up The Happy Movie online, but the people who have done this movie have focused their research on what it is that makes people happy. It's a documentary. They've researched this scientifically. They've gone to different countries and talked to different people about what makes them happy and what happiness looks like. And they have determined with their scientific research that 50% of what makes someone happy is genetic. Now, whether that's nature and nurture or whatever, I know astrology is in there too. You can see these predispositions in charts, and that's part of that. They didn't say that, but I know that that's there. Then 10% of whether people are happy or not is circumstantial, which makes sense because you often see someone that has it all who is totally not happy, or someone who doesn't have anything and is totally happy. So circumstances are about 10% what they figure of happiness. And the rest of the 40% is a choice that you make voluntarily as to how you're going to see something, how you're going to frame it, regardless of circumstance or genetic or upbringing. So that's saying right away, without even looking at the other pieces, that in an instant you can, by 40%, improve how happy you are without even looking at the other factors. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's super powerful. That is the seed of empowerment in your life, is that you can change your perspective with how you're seeing things. That's why I always go back to inner work. I have had many people contact me and say all these great potentials that are going on are passing me by and I'm not experiencing those things. If you're one of those people, it could be that there are blessings around you and you're not seeing them for those as they are, blessings. That's the first thing, which is relevant to the movie. The second thing, of course, is inner work. So however you go in and do that deep excavation, and I can list 1,000 ways that you can do this, some resources that I love, some resources I put together myself, as to how you can clear out those blocks and make yourself magnetic to the good things that are going on, because you don't want to let these possibilities, these good possibilities, pass you by and then be watching as everybody is enjoying what's going on and you're feeling like it's not true for you. So you want to make it true for you by taking an active role in your destiny, and part of that includes changing your perspective to become not just a spectator in your life, but to become a co-creator in your life. So I hope you have a wonderful September. If you want to have some assistance, I would love to help you. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, where you can see more about my personal coaching and my virtual coaching program called Shine, which is available on a sliding scale. And if money is your issue, you can check out my Unleash Your Money Magnet webinar, which is full of tools that help you to change your financial reality. And definitely sign up for my free email newsletter and get the write-up that I send out to my community every month for the upcoming month. And I hope you have a wonderful month. Take care. Bye.